Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with my, I guess, little wrap up of a character introduction and wrap up of a character I started during the Gauntlet race. It was the second character of the Gauntlet for me, and it was Smite. Smite came out with a new microtransaction, and it just felt like the time to do a bit of that since I had a sword with some damage. It was a 350 DPS Corsair sword, had nothing else on it, a little bit of attack speed, just whatever. So I wanted to build a Slayer Smite character, and that's what you're seeing here with the new microtransaction with Ancestral Coal, and it's a pretty damn good skill for clearing. I obviously had to build extremely defensively, as much as I could, given the circumstances anyway, while still trying to make a fairly hipster type of character. So we do have the Overleach node through Slayer, I do have the crit node so that I can actually do some crit stuff, and then I'm using Trinity as well because about half my damage is lightning and half of it is cold, which means that with lightning damage, since it's a pretty large variable, some of the hits are going to be primarily lightning, some are going to be primarily cold, and that means that I can keep resonance up for all three elements based off of that. So that's how you can utilize Trinity with just two elements, as long as you're sometimes hitting with cold as your highest damage source and sometimes with lightning as your highest damage source, you'll keep up all three resonance elements for Trinity. So it worked out pretty well to that point. I did, of course, end up dying at like level 75 or something because I was doing the metamorph, and it was a pretty spooky one, and bad things happened. But I do think Smite is in a decent spot with, the right gear, character, softcore, all of that, to be a pretty successful character. Similar to the last time I played Smite as a Berserker, you could build it in that sort of manner. But you can do plenty of other things with it too. It's a fairly long range ability and does hit pretty hard. But with that over, I want to introduce the new character that I'm currently playing, and that is Hollow Palm Infernal Blow. It's pretty popular at the moment to do Hollow Palm comboed with Infernal Blow. I've done a couple of Hollow Palms in the past, a Tectonic Slam and a Frenzy, but it's been quite a while, I think since actual Delirium League is the last time I did it. So at this point I wanted to make an Infernal Blow, since I hadn't played one of those in a while, as well. And a lot of people are doing these as Raider and using Trinity, but I am going for pure Chieftain action and no Trinity. So it's just pure fire damage, pure Chieftain, trying to do similar to what my starter character did, in that you do have totems buffing you quite profusely, but Chieftain's also really nice because it gives you 110 fire res, which is one of the big challenges on a Hollow Palm character, capping out your resists, getting as much dexterity as possible, and still maintaining a good level of DPS from your gear. So the 110 fire res makes things quite a bit nicer and quite a bit cheaper to get started, and as you can see, Infernal Blow does have some pretty satisfying explosions. As always, if you've never tried Infernal Blow, probably still owe it to yourself to try it in some form or capacity. And it seems like the character should have good 10 plus million DPS or so by the time it's over, so hopefully it can end up taking on all kinds of endgame. It will have like 50 evasion or dodge, it's got some leech nodes and the defensive Chieftain node for leech, so it should be somewhat thick. And then at the same time you've got good range because I am using Ancestral Call. For clear, it seems pretty useful. Like, I have Tribal Fury, so it's one additional attack, but I don't think there's any way I'm clearing without Ancestral Call. It just feels too good of an addition to actually get rid of. It doesn't seem worth getting rid of a Ancestral Call for clear. Just swap in something else like Multi-Strike for single target, and then single target should be pretty decent with that one extra strike as well for convenience. Overall, it seems like the damage should be there. The playstyle is very nice. The Infernal Blow extremely satisfying. The big issue is going to be that we're going to be pretty melee based, and for these really end game bosses like the 5-way Uber Elders and stuff, you kind of need like 20 million DPS to be able to face roll your way through that shit, or really good sustain. I'm not sure I'll have really good sustain. I think it might be decent, and I think my DPS is probably going to be something like 10 million, so it might not quite get there for those end games. Though I think it should do pretty well for almost all content. People have been making raiders this league and just zooming their way through the game pretty comfortably, and you can definitely do a similar sort of character, but I'm trying to go more of a Chieftain because I really enjoyed it as Cyclone as my starter. Thought maybe I could kind of try and invest a bit more currency into this one, though it's pretty basic so far. And then a lot of it's just built around cluster jewels because you fill out some of your damage stats that way, and a lot of your resist that way as well. And as you can see, using the Despair Herald of Ash effect, that is coming from the mystery boxes, the combined effect. So far, so good. Do want to show you guys how I've built it thus far, and see what the future lies ahead in store for us. Yep. So here's my character, level 81, fisted by Gauntlet. Pretty self-explanatory. It didn't go particularly well for me. Chieftain, and it's currently 4.3k life. It was a bit higher, but I had to narrow it back down to just try and get some of my resists and stuff fixed up first. The next 10 levels or so are going to be pure life, and we should shoot up to close to 6k. With, you know, all that thickness, it's not going to be too bad. So we're building around Hollow Palm technique. If you're unfamiliar with it, it primarily comes from one with nothing small cluster jewel, and you get count as dual wielding while unencumbered, more attack speed unencumbered, and a bunch of fizz damage per 10 dexterity. And unencumbered means you cannot have gloves or weapons. So that has to be completely naked, so it is pretty tough to fit in gem sockets in these types of builds, and as well as that, kind of some resists and stuff are tough too, since you have to try and stack dexterity and then at the same time get everything else as well. You know, we're talking like life and maybe some accuracy. In this case, I don't think we need too much. Stats are pretty tough too. So you can see currently my gear is basically just dex stacking. I bought this chest with just 2 dex rolls and then some life, but I'm still working on those prefixes. This thing was 50C 6 linked. So pretty crazy stuff, but you can make them yourself with most likely chaos spam. You then got a ring that has a bunch of dexterity. I think I bought this thing for 1 exalt. Yeah, and flammability, and it's an unset ring, so I can fit more stuff in. Bought a ring with just 50 dexterity fractured, and then used some hysterias until I got some lightning res, because that's all I currently needed. So that's pretty easy stuff. Grabbed an ancestral protector totem buff effect thing once again, though you can do infernal blow, extra fizz as fire, and then just hit it with a couple of dex essences, and this is what happened. And then you grab an implicit synthesized leather belt. Doesn't matter if it's leather or not, just, you know, implicit of 13 to 15 dexterity, and then throw on some catalysts, throw on some dexterity, sorrow, deafening essences, and pretty humble belt once again. Nothing too special happening yet. Garakan's flight, a lot of dexterity, a lot of life per dexterity. You know, ideally if you hit like 2000 dexterity, then you're getting 400 life from them. We're not quite there, currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, and probably won't come anywhere close because I'm trying to build a bit more localized in my tree. So my tree is currently just getting a bit of life, going for a few jewel sockets, and then getting this cluster here and this cluster here, and then some dexterity. Got some mana leech there, a little bit of movement speed, using a brutal restraint. Currently it's kind of shit. It's just dexterity and a few little life nodes, but you can obviously get them to have a lot of percent dexterity and, you know, get a god roll. Otherwise, got Tribal Fury, and then my clusters at the moment are a dual wielding one that gives martial prowess and martial momentum, mostly for the accuracy percents. I then have a bunch of mediums that I rolled, and each one I'm trying to get cooked alive on, so minus fire res. We then have Cremator, Burning Bright, minus fire res, and over here it's a fire damage cluster with currently disorienting and corrosive elements for the exposure, though I will try and get another mod on it through harvest, and then maybe it'll be something useful or something I can cut here. And once again, the mediums, Burning Bright, Cooked Alive, and Cremator. Same thing as over here, but just what I managed to roll. And then with the smalls, that's mostly where you're getting a good chunk of your dexterity once again. So the small passives can have dexterity, they can have resists as well, and then whatever else as the last one. This one specifically, I managed to roll up to have nothing else. So they're just dexterity nodes. This one just gives you each point 4% life, 11 dexterity, resist, life, and no notable. And then the last one down here, I think will be possibly this one, which I'll try and re-roll the suffixes onto just to hit dexterity. So then it's increased effect and dexterity. But that might take a bit of work with harvest. Otherwise, might just, roll another one with some dexterity. That's what the tree looks like. We do use Fortify in our links always, so Fortify there. I do have 25% Fizz as fire with Anger, so that's currently my reservation. Anger, Herald of Ash, and Blood and Sand. The main links here that I'm rolling with are Anomalous Infernal Blow. That gives you 20% chance to apply Uncharged debuff. You then have early damage with attacks, Fortify. Currently, I am using 2 scum green sockets because the chest is pure evasion base. Getting those 2 last red sockets is going to require a bit of harvest or some Varici action. So 2 green sockets, which are suboptimal, but we have Ancestral Call, which is awakened, and then running Onslaught and faster attacks. Obviously, I'll get rid of Onslaught and faster attacks when I can. Run a Onslaught Flask, and then Multi-Strike and Ruthless are my last 2 links there. And then probably going to be swapping out Ancestral Call for Melee Fizz, I think. But you can play around with all 3 of these as, your main setup. But I think Ancestral Call is well worth running for clearing. It feels so much better to have 3 additional extra targets attacked all the time. Bigger bloofs. And then the totems, of course, are linked up to have multi-totem once again. So Ancestral Protector, multi-totem, Ancestral War Chief, and Combustion. And then we're just pressing one set of totems, then the other, and you get both buffs once again. And it's pretty damn huge for our DPS as a Chieftain. And then over here, Herald of Ash, Anger, Second Wind, and Dash. Dash attached to Second Wind is pretty crucial for this type of a playstyle because you don't have a movement skill otherwise. First 2 points I took were Namahu's Flame. I then went Hinekora Death's Fury. Then went the Resists, so Tasalo Cleansing Water. And then the big totem buff node here. That gives us a lot more damage. And we anointed Panopticon. Pretty straightforward stuff, I think, at the moment. Just big fisting action. Mana's a bit of an issue when we attack a lot. So, use a Mana Flask until you don't need to anymore. And then do have this Mana Leech node. Maybe I'll need to take this one as well once we're attacking really fast on single target. Or maybe I'll have to drop Sand Stance or some shit. Don't know. But that's the characters so far. Hollow Palm, if you've never done it before, damn well worth doing. Pretty damn fun. Can be done on fairly humble setups. Can be min-maxed to quite some big extremes. There's some serious builds out there that you can copy. This is my little example so far. Hopefully I got a better endgame video for you soon. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.